Hi there, welcome to No Nonsense Whiskey. My name's Vin PF, and on today's episode we're covering another Indian whiskey, and this time it's a Rampur double cask. Before we get into it, I will say I was sent this bottle for review, actually in a lovely set which I'll go through in a bit. But one other thing I'd like to raise when I'm talking about Indian whiskey is if you pay attention to the map behind me, you'll notice that India is coloured green. Actually, it's not coloured green, it's a scratch map. So the whole map is coloured gold, and then when I cover a whiskey from a region, I'll scratch that off. So you'll notice that there's different bits of colour from all over, and the hope is that one day, without any real serious effort, I'll uncover the whole of the world at some point. But yeah, so if you have noticed that during this review, it's not that India is being singled out, it's just that it's the only one in that region that I've actually managed to try at the moment. So I'm working on it. Hopefully when I get China, we'll be able to just get rid of that big old swath there. I don't think Russia are really doing anything like that at the moment, certainly not sending it abroad anyway. But yeah, let's get into the actual whiskey and see what we've got. So this here is the Rampur double cask. Now this came through in this, this is a really impressive box. So usually if I get sent a bottle, I'll get the bottle, maybe the box with it. But this is cool, man. Look at the size of this thing. Ultimately, really, it was the bottle and two glasses. So the bottle went there, two glasses, and these glasses are huge. Look at that. So yeah, obviously, truth be told, I love a rocks glass. I don't actually drink whiskey with ice in it, but I do love a good old tumbler. So I'm going to enjoy putting those in my glass cabinet, probably in my kitchen, where I actually put my drinking glasses rather than here. You can only just about see the little cube there with the glassware, but that's where I keep my Glencairns and things like that for on screen. But yeah, so cool little set. So yeah, a couple of stats that we want to talk about then. Rampur Distillery, Indian single malt whiskey, double cask. That basically means it has an initial maturation in ex-bourbon, so a US ex-bourbon. Don't know if that's first fill, refill, whatever. And then it had an additional maturation period in some European sherry casks. That's all the information I've got in terms of casks. What I can tell you is that it spent 2/3 of its life in the former and 1/3 in the latter. So yeah, don't know about age or whatever, anything like that, unfortunately, but that's where we're at. It's a 45% whiskey, so 1% shy of that kind of critical 46 for me, but there we are. We've got the words non-chill filtered on the label, but we don't have the words natural colour, which I'll be honest with you, I think is a big shame. Not that colour tends to bother me too much on the channel, but I think that it's important to have it on the label if it's true. If it's true in this case, I don't know. That's the problem, so I can't really comment on it. This one sells in the UK for about 60 quid, and we'll get into that a little bit later on. And if you are interested, we've got some batch information on the back here. So this is batch 750, dated, well, I assume it's the 4th of August 23, but it could easily be the other way around for US dating, the 8th of April 23. But either way, whatever, that's where we're at. Yeah, best thing to do then is to get into the actual whiskey itself and see what we got, and see what we get enjoying. Can't really talk too much about colour because there's a good chance it's got some added colour, but whatever. There we are. In terms of legs, I'd say it's pretty average. It's pretty in the middle. It's got them, and they're not too quick, which is good. We like that. Let's get onto the nose then. Okay, this for me has got a very interesting nose. The overarching flavour for me is marzipan. There's some good little, very subtle vanillas, very subtle. There's some very subtle vanillas, very subtle honeys. But I'm not getting the kind of normal dried fruits that I would expect to get from something that's sherry influenced, things like raisins and sultanas and things like that. Which is no bad thing for me. I'm not a huge sherry finish fan, so to try something a little different is good. But yeah, marzipan. Let's try on the palate. Well, that's a tasty palate. Let's have another quick sip. Oh, it's sweet and vibrant and fruity. Loads of I mean, like the standard things. There's loads of vanilla. I mean, honey. It's so honey. It almost like a deep, rich Manuka honey. Again, the normal things I would expect to get from sherry influence, like those dried fruits, not quite so prevalent on this. They are sort of hanging around, but it's really those vanillas, those honeys, the things that I would expect to get from a bourbon cask that are shining through here. So I'm not really sure how much influence the sherry cask is having, but yeah, for me, that's a bit of a winner because, like I said earlier, I'm not a huge sherry cask finish, but you should take those words as important, because if you are looking for big sherry notes, I don't think they're here. It's got a good dollop of malty, biscuity vibes coming on with that, so nice cereal notes that I enjoy, layered on quite nicely. Is indicative of some youth, but that saying, the subcontinent tends to age whiskey a little quicker, a lot quicker really, so even if this was like 3, 4, 5 years old, something like that, it's going to pick up traits of an older whiskey by Scotch standards, because it just doesn't, the temperature difference is just phenomenally different. But yeah, very tasty. I'm enjoying that. Now, at the end of the show, we talk about things like value and maybe picking on a few points. So for me, 60 quid, that's a lot. That's a lot for this. It's an enjoyable whiskey, for sure. I'm enjoying it. But I would say that people that were on the fence about it, I don't think they're going to be pulled in, because there's a couple of key bits of information that are missing. 45%, I think, is just shy of what would pull more people in. 46% would go a long way, I think, to really enticing people in, because, I mean, it says non-chill filtered, but it doesn't really matter, about if it's less than 46%, it doesn't really matter if it's chill filtered or not. But it is, and that's fine, whatever. The other one, again, is added colour. Now, as I said earlier, I'm not really too bothered about whether it's got added colour or not, but the words on the label and the intent behind those words are important, especially if you are trying to convince people that would otherwise drink Scotch or whatever. This is bottled for the English market, so I can only assume that it's trying to get into that market. But my personal feelings are that if it had, though, that 1% extra, if it had no added colour on there, it would be a little easier for me to say that 60 quid was fine. Obviously, because then you've got to think about things like getting it over here. It's expensive to start up new distilleries and whatnot, whatever. But yeah, that's my big problem with it. I think anyone who tries it is going to agree that it's a lovely, tasty drop. There's no arguments there whatsoever. But I can absolutely guarantee you that the comment section not too soon after release will be full of people saying things like, I can get this XYZ for 60 quid, so I don't need to buy this. And I have to agree, unfortunately. I have to agree. I think it's probably, like I said earlier, reiterating again, the 1%, the missing detail on the label, and probably a tenner less, and I think it would be a much more viable option for me to say this is definitely something worth buying. That said, if you're working your way through the Indian whiskies and you've only got this left, I don't think you'd be too upset about it. I think it's a good tasting whiskey. I think you'd enjoy it. I'm certainly going to. Yeah, I think that's fair enough. Best thing to do is for you to let me know what you think in the comments below. Have you tried it? Are you going to try it? Is it something that you're interested in? Let's have a little chat below. But, I'm going to enjoy it off screen, on screen, whatever. And hopefully you will too. Cheers.